Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm going to be showcasing a powerful climbing team that I had extremely consistent sets with in the Open Great League, as well as the adjustment that I would make to the team to make it even stronger once Season 19 move updates drop tomorrow. The team features a very strong, safe Pokemon on the lead in Vigoroth, which has play into every Pokemon that isn't named Annihilate, Shadow Whiscash as the safe switch, and in the back, Tropius, which is very good at catching opponents' Annihilate or Shadow Whiscash safe switches and putting them into a difficult spot. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and let's take a look at the team in action. Hopping into the first match, leading Vigoroth into Skarmory, and with any lead you can see that's not named Annihilate, Vigoroth is going to have some strong neutral play. So I'm more than happy to stay in here and play this out. Typically, Skarmory lead teams are weak to Tropius in the back, so I'm expecting Tropius can put in a lot of work versus the remainder of their team. They full send the Brave Bird, snipe with Annihilate, and this is perfect. Annihilate save switch, one of the things we're targeting with the Air Slash Tropius. As Air Slash, we're able to inflict some pretty significant damage onto the Annihilate. They bait with the Night Slash, and I'm going to go for the KO with the Aerial Ace. Important thing here is my Tropius is not switch locked. They sniped me, so I can switch at any time. So when they bring back in the Skarmory, I can just send in the Shadow Whiscash. They send in the Skarmory, they're still switch locked, I'm not switch locked. I'm going to build up to the Scald and bait with the Mud Bomb. I'm expecting that they need to keep the Skarmory healthy to get rid of the Tropius, so a bait feels very safe. And now I have an energy lead versus whatever they have in the back, and if they have a Skarmory, odds are it's probably going to be a Mud Boy, and there is the Shadow Whiscash. Since Scald is getting a nerf in Season 19, the change that I would make to this team is I would just run Shadow Quagsire. Shadow Quagsire with Legacy Aquatail and Stone Edge is still going to provide some truly terrific coverage on the safe switch, and it actually will make the team even less weak to Mantine, which is a definite plus. I do get debuffed by the Scald, but Mud Bomb will still KO. And again, I'm going for another bait. Even if the Mud Bomb bait gets called, it just puts them into a range where a Leaf Blade will KO. They commit the shield, they try for the farm down, but they cannot get there. Shadow Whiscash putting in an insane amount of work, knocking Skarmory out of the sky, and taking the win. Vigoroth in the next match versus Annihilate. This is the worst case scenario. Save switch into the Shadow Whiscash. Opponent stays in to go for the Night Slash. This does desync the timers here. So they're going to go for the Night Slash, they're going to send in Dugong, and this is definitely looking like hard counter city. As typically, Annihilate Dugong, the third is going to be a Bastiodon, which is definitely not something you want to see if you have a flying type in the back. I fire off Mud Bomb after Mud Bomb, opponent not going to overfarm and let me make it to another move. They will fire off the Icy Wind that picks up the knockout, and if you notice here, I don't wait the clock, because the desync in timers is very important. When they send in Annihilate, they're still going to be stuck here for a little bit, and I can send in the Tropius. And Tropius will be able to get some very valuable damage. Tropius just going to fire off the Leaf Blade instantly here, looking to put pressure on the opponent and grab a shield. I know it's probably Basti in the back, so I need whatever advantage I can get. It is going to be the Bastiodon, and I've been triple hard countered here. I have Vigoroth, they have Annihilate, I have Shadow Whiscash, they have Dugong, and now I have an Air Slash Tropius, and they have a Bastiodon. But here's where, again, I can take advantage of the desync in the timers. I shield up the Stone Edge. I notice my clock will be up soon. After throwing this Leaf Blade, my clock should be up momentarily. I can switch, my opponent cannot. And look at the work that Vigoroth is able to put in here. Vigoroth shredding the Bastiodon. Bastiodon now deep into the red health, going to fire off the Stone Edge. Stone Edge connects. I have double Rock Slide, and they send in Annihilate. Their switch timer finally up. Rock Slide number 1 connects, going for Rock Slide number 2. This will come very close to knocking out. We are fighting back against the hard counter. In comes the Tropius. Tropius going to commit the shield. Can I get to double Leaf Blade? If I can get to double Leaf Blade, this is going to be a win. Can we overcome hard counter city? We barely cannot. But for triple hard counter, able to make it that close, that's one of the reasons why I'm such a strong believer in this team. Decent lead in the next match, Vigoroth versus Sableye. I'm more than happy to stay in here and play this out. The Tropius plus Shadow Whiscash core is very strong in alignment, so in a lot of situations, if you can play for switch, it's definitely going to be worth your while. Opponent safe switches into a Shadow Steelix, and that sets off alarm bells in my head. Shadow Steelix is basically never used in the Open Great League, with the exception of being a safe switch to try and lure out a potential anti-steal, to then sweep with something like a Carbink or a Bastiodon. And if that's the case, then I definitely want to preserve my Shadow Whiscash. Opponent is going to send back in the Sableye, and I'm going to commit the shield here. I'm realizing that my opponent probably does not want to see Whiscash in the back, so I will build up to the Scald and bait with the Mud Bomb. If they shield, they want this thing gone, and they shield. Aggressive switch into the Vigoroth, saving the Whiscash for later. Firing off the Rock Slide, I have so much energy stored, that connects. I wait the turn to see if they catch, so I don't actually get a sneak through, which is not ideal, as the foul play will pick up the KO, but now I can send in the Whiscash, and what do you know, it's Bastiodon right on cue, but I preserved the Whiscash, I didn't fall for the trap, the Mud Bomb connects, opponent sees the writing on the wall, and concedes the match. Good lead in the next match, Vigoroth versus the Wigglytuff. Opponent safe switches into Skeledirge, and here I'm a bit slow on the counter switch in sending in the Whiscash. Opponent goes for the Shadow Ball, that does massive damage, and that's definitely not ideal for me. I will fire off the Scald. Scald is definitely overkill here, but I'm fishing for a debuff. I do get the debuff, and the debuff means that I can actually make it to this Mud Bomb. The Mud Bomb is going to be shielded up, Skeledirge is going to win switch advantage, and in comes Vigoroth. Vigoroth to be hit with multiple Disarming Voices here. They fire off Disarming Voice number 1. I'm looking to make it to the Rock Slide, and I do get there just before they make their next move. So I denied them opportunity to fire off the energy. The Rock Slide will pick up the KO. In the back, it's Poliwrath, so they're running ABA Icy Wind users. Icy Wind, not something Tropius can handle, so I'm forced to commit the shield, but now I'm debuffed and in comes Wigglytuff. Wigglytuff already has some pretty decent bulk to it as a Pokemon. My attack being lowered means that Leaf Blade is going to do basically nothing. But something I do have to keep in mind as well is, again, the misalignment of the timers. That's something that you can really use to improve your particular play, is learning to take advantage of situations when opponents desync timers and punishing them for it. So in this instance, I'm able to switch out into the Vigoroth, I get a full farm down, and I exit with a ton of energy. And Poliwrath is going to exit and be able to get quite a few counters, but they're not going to get the 6 counters they need to make the Icy Wind. They're short. So, in doing so, I can just send in the Tropius, fire off the Leaf Blade knocks out the Poliwrath, and things got quite scary when we lost switch, but we're still able to take the win. Great lead in the next match, Vigoroth versus Mantine. Mantine is a pretty big problem for this backline, but running the updated version of this team with the Shadow Quagsire, it's going to be a lot less of an issue, because of course you have Stone Edge, and that is going to hit for massive damage onto the Mantine. Mantine will return fire with the Water Pulse, and this is quite nice, because they make the Aerial Ace when I make it to the Body Slam. Vigoroth's always going to win charge attack priority, and this will knock out if they let it through. They are going to let it through. They're going to send in Shadow Gligar. I'm farming up quite a bit of energy, and I make it to the Rock Slide. I'm really hoping that my opponent ends up committing a shield here. They do not, but even so, I should just be in an okay spot where I can just send in the Whiscash, but here you're going to watch me throw a game. Oh my goodness. I try and go for the Dig Catch. I don't get it. I get way too fancy with it, and it's going to cost me. Because here's the thing. If they're leading Mantine, they have to have very good checks to Lantern in the back. Their second mon was the Gligar, which is not a good check to a Lantern. So they probably have something like a Whiscash in the back. And if they do, guess who really needs his Tropius and just threw it away for no reason? So they're going to be able to fire off a move with the Gligar. I'm going to no shield, but what do you know? Guess what's in the back? It's a Whiscash, and if I just stayed in with my Whiscash versus the Gligar and didn't try and get fancy, I would have been in a winning position. But unfortunately, I misplay and I lose. We've got a massive core breaker on the lead in the next match. Vigoroth versus Chestnut. Haven't seen Chestnut in quite some time. I do expect it'll be coming back a little bit now that it is getting Thunder Punch in the new season, but seeing it pre-Thunder Punch is quite wild. I go for the Body Slam. That does quite a bit of damage. They have a ton of energy on the Chestnut, so I will commit the shield. They end up going for the Frenzy Plant because they don't want to debuff their defense and attack. Now I go for the Body Slam. They're just going to let it through, fully sacrificing that Chestnut, and they're going to send in Skeledirge. I love this bait so much. They have full incentive to try and shield and farm down, but they shield the slam, which means they can't farm down. They're forced to throw energy, so that bait ends up working out incredibly well for me. They go for the Disarming Voice. I send in the Shadow Whiscash. Shadow Whiscash is going to be met with a Shadow Ball from the Skeledirge. This is going to hit for massive, massive damage. Farm it up, and I'm going for the Mud Bomb. I could have potentially overfarmed a bit more, but I just wanted to get rid of the Dirge. Dirge is out of the way, but it's a Shadow Charizard in the back, and this is going to come down to a 50-50 bait call. I either have to call a Dragon Claw or shield a Blast Burn. In comes the Tropius. If I can make it to the Aerial Ace, I'm okay. It all comes down to this. If it's the Blast Burn, I can fire off the Aerial Ace, but I get baited and lose charge attack priority. A true 50-50, and unfortunately, I just get it wrong. Very cool team with the double fire. Unfortunately, I didn't manage my energy on Whiscash very well, and it ends up biting me in a big way. We move to the next match, Vigoroth versus Carbink. This lead can be a bit uncomfortable. Vigoroth has quite a bit of neutral play here, but ideally, of course, I would much rather it get aligned onto the Shadow Whiscash, and Carbink always makes me think that there could be grass types in the back, which is never going to be a fun time for a Mudboy. I'm able to land the Rock Slide. They're going to go for a Rock Slide of their own. They switch into the Poliwrath, and unfortunately, my reaction time is absolutely terrible, and I give them a massive energy head start. They're going to go for the Icy Wind. I'm fully expecting they're not going to shield this, because at -1, they should survive this Leaf Blade, and then be able to just fire off another Icy Wind and force the shield, but they end up shielding. So a bit of a surprise on my part, because I was definitely expecting them to just let that through, but they end up shielding, and that works out very nicely for me. As now I'm one away from back-to-back Leaf Blade, so I'm going to fire off the first Leaf Blade. Opponent is going to let it through, and they're going to send in the Carbink. I would really love to store energy here and switch, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. In the back, they have Greninja, so a very cool spice pick from the opponent. I have a ton of energy stored everywhere, so I think I should be okay. I'm still not in a range where a Hydro Cannon KOs, because Shadow Whiscash, even though it's Shadow, can still tank moves, even from an absolute glass cannon like Greninja. Greninja will fire off its energy. Let's see. Can it knock out? No, it cannot. Shadow Whiscash too bulky, making it to another Mud Bomb. This Mud Bomb is going to pick up the KO. In comes the Carbink. And Carbink, at this point, I should have a pretty straightforward path to victory here versus the Carbink, is I can just throw the Rock Slide. They have to expect the combo play, and they do by throwing instantly, but my plan is I can survive the next Rock throw, so I can just throw one, switch, and get the combo. My opponent's only win con there was just to try and get the prediction right, so by playing it the way that I did, not switching, they're unable to do so, and we take the win. Vigoroth versus Skarmory, we've seen this lead before. Every time I see Skarmory, I'm just thinking, you know what? Tropius in the back probably is absolutely wicked. I go for the Rock Slide, trying to go for charge attack priority. My opponent not going to let that happen, though. So they are just going to overfarm, and they end up shielding, which is a very big surprise to me. I don't really like shielding Vigoroth in this matchup. They're going to go for a Sky Attack. Sky Attack not going to be able to KO. I go for the Rock Slide. They make a catch onto Whiscash, and this works out great. I'm just going to let myself get farmed down here because I don't want to switch select the Tropius. I can just send in the Tropius. Tropius, complete wall to energy from the Whiscash. Go for the Leaf Blade, but unfortunately I do lose charge attack priority. But guess what? They're running Blizzard, and that's just instantly game losing there. Props to the opponent for the spicy moveset. If they were not running Blizzard, I would have been in a phenomenal position, but they actually have the coverage move. It completely destroys Tropius. And unfortunately, yeah, there's just no path forward here. So I just undercharged the move in top left. But man, that is very, very unfortunate. Hopping into the final match, we've got an amazing lead for the Vigoroth leading into the Alolan Sandslash. They save switch into Mantine. I'm expecting that they're going to shield because they're very, very weak to the Vigoroth. And I actually do get the bait call right, which is honestly terrific. I decide to shield back, but I get baited with the Aerial Ace. That's not amazing for me. It looks like they're just going straight Aerial Ace, so they're not trying to go for a harder hitting Water Pulse. Farming up a ton of energy with the Vigoroth, going for the Rock Slide. Looking to put pressure on that shield. Are they going to commit the shield? Yes, they're double shielding the Mantine. Mantine accidentally overfarms and plays to a CMB tie that it does not win. The Rock Slide connects, getting Mantine deep into the red. Unfortunately, I don't have switch advantage now because I'm going to get knocked out with the Aerial Ace. So I was able to get rid of most of the Mantine's health, but not having switch means that I'm going to need Shadow Whiscash to sweep here. I send in the Whiscash in the back. It's going to be Annihilate, and this should be a winning position for me. 2 Mud Bombs will be able to knock out. My opponent is only going to be able to make it to 1 Night Slash, so I am going to commit the shield just to preserve a little bit of health. I could have potentially just let that go, but I was thinking, you know what, I just want to keep health, because my opponent, interestingly enough, didn't throw a Shadow Claw when they switched. They waited because they were expecting me to switch, so in knowing that, I knew that as long as I overfarmed by 1, I could outpace, land the Mud Bomb, and there's just no winning at this point for my opponent. So they're just going to fire off the Ice Punch, and in probably the saddest day for a Sandslash ever, Sandslash gets air slashed down by a Tropius, and we take the win. All in all, I do really like the Vigoroth Air/Tropius combination, and I do think that it's going to be a very strong one in the new season as well. Tropius is just so good at shutting down Annihilate and energy from Annihilate because almost everyone has settled into the Night Size plus Shadow Ball moveset. If it still ran Ice Punch, then that would obviously be a pretty big problem for a Grass Flying type. But the Shadow Balls, honestly, not too big of a problem for Tropius, and the Air Slashes add up quite a bit. And I'm still expecting we're going to see a lot of Mudboy save switches in the new season, just with Shadow Quagsire instead of the typical Shadow Whiscash. Quagsire, of course, has Stone Edge, but a Stone Edge is not going to be enough to KO a Tropius, and you're still going to be able to apply quite a bit of pressure with the Leaf Blade. So I do think that this team, with just subbing in Shadow Quagsire with Aqua Tail, Mudshot, and Stone Edge for the Shadow Whiscash, is going to be a really good climbing team in the new season, even after the move updates go live. Just purely off the fact that Vigoroth, as we discussed at the beginning, basically has no bad matchups, so it really allows you a tremendous amount of neutral play where you don't really feel like you're losing a lot of leads. And then in the right alignment, Mudboy plus Tropius core is very strong, or even if you can't get alignment, if you can manage to get an energy advantage, either Shadow Quagsire or, in this case, obviously the Shadow Whiscash, are very, very deadly up energy and can output a significant amount of damage. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.